A relationship can survive cheating, but not the version that existed the day before it happened. It either ends, or both of you build a new relationship with the same two people on different rules. The uncomfortable truth is most couples don't fail from the event. They fail from the denial, minimization, and trickle truth that follows. If you want a realistic answer, it's this. Survival is possible, but only when the old system dies fast and honesty takes the wheel. Beat. We're discussing behaviors in unhealthy dynamics, not generalizing to everyone. Use this to spot patterns, set boundaries, and choose healthy relationships. Cheating doesn't pop out of thin air. The mechanism is drift, secrecy, and justifications that make the forbidden feel noble. We're just helping each other. We weren't intimate, so it doesn't count. It meant nothing. Once secrecy turns into a story, the betrayal has momentum. Repair requires the opposite mechanism. Full truth, no contact, and a consistent pattern of care that outlasts the panic. Here's where most men get blindsided. You expect a confession to be the finish line. It's the starting whistle. After the reveal, you'll see one of two paths. On the first path, accountability shows up unprompted. No contact is immediate. Details are offered without you dragging them out, and your partner tolerates your questions with patience. On the second path, the story keeps changing. Your controlling becomes the defense, and the phone flips face down again like nothing happened. Picture the living room on a Tuesday night. She says she's exhausted, then lights up when a certain name pops on her screen. You ask who it is. She sighs and calls you paranoid. The next day she's late, blames traffic, and wants to move forward without details. Notice what happens next if you let that slide. Your body will keep the score. You'll obsess at 3 a.m. because you never received a complete story that lets your nervous system rest. Now, flip the scene. Same Tuesday. She says, I crossed a line. Here's the timeline. Here's my phone right now. I've cut contact and I'll send the no contact message while you're here. She offers counseling, expects you to pause intimacy for safety, and doesn't argue about your need to revisit this for months. She hates what she did, not that she got caught. That difference is everything. Why do people risk everything? Novelty dopamine, secrecy, and intermittent reinforcement create a high that stable love can't mimic. Compartmentalization lets someone act like two different people. Work self, home self, and then justify it. Projection shows up when the cheater accuses you of what they're doing. You're lying, you're dramatic, you're over-controlling. Intermittent reinforcement, those surprise texts, the thrill of getting away with it, burns deep grooves that feel like chemistry. That's the gravity you're fighting during repair. Men, here's the part nobody tells you. Forgiveness is not the first step. Safety is. If your body doesn't feel safe, your mind can't forgive and your heart won't reopen. Safety comes from structure, not speeches. It's calendars, no contact, transparency for a season, and the freedom to ask your questions without being punished for it. Let's decode some common lines so you don't get spun around. They say, it didn't mean anything. Could mean, I'm minimizing the impact to avoid consequences. Verify by. Ask for a full timeline, the last message, and whether they're willing to send a clear no-contact note. Respond with, intent aside, the impact is huge. Give me the full story and cut contact now if repair is real. They say, I need space to figure out my feelings. Could mean, I want time without accountability to keep both doors open. Verify by. Do they agree to no contact with that person during space and set a date to revisit with specifics? Respond with, take space. Partner privileges pause until we have no contact and a plan. They say, you're controlling for wanting reassurance. Could mean, I don't want to provide the transparency that rebuilds trust. Verify by, offer time-limited transparency and see if they propose a better plan to meet the same need. Respond with, I'm not policing you, I'm asking for the structure that makes staying possible. Micro Story 1. Ravi, 31, product manager in Bengaluru, got a call at midnight. His girlfriend admitted she'd crossed a line with a teammate at an offsite. He breathed, wrote down his questions, and asked for a timeline, no contact, and stepping off the side project that created proximity. She agreed, sent the message while he watched, and booked therapy. He paused intimacy until health checks and kept one weekly check-in. 6 months later, trust wasn't a speech. It was visible in routines, and they kept the new rules. Micro Story 2. Marcus, 37, firefighter in Chicago, found months of chats with an old flame. His partner confessed, then started minimizing, kept accidentally texting the person, and called him controlling when he asked for boundaries. He stayed calm, repeated his standard once, and ended the relationship when the story kept changing. 2 months later, he said the grief was real, but the peace was louder, because his actions matched his standards. Lower. Which brings us to the part nobody tells you. You can't rebuild with a moving target. Trickle truth kills relationships because your nervous system gets re-traumatized with every new detail. Rushing to forgive and forget backfires too, because you never get the full map. The couples who make it don't move fast, they move clear. No secrets, no triangles, no half steps. Let's make this practical. You don't need perfect words. You need a repeatable frame. Ask clean questions once. Watch for consistent answers over time. Protect your health and dignity while the data comes in. Here's a tight checklist to run. Get the timeline. When it started, when it ended, what contact remains. Write it down. Require no contact with the person and proof of closure. Agree on time-limited transparency. Pause intimacy until health and honesty checks are done. Stabilize sleep, food, and routine. Set weekly check-ins and a 30 to 60-day review. Measure actions, not apologies. If the story shifts, slow the relationship. Less access, fewer logistics, more distance until clarity returns. Use scripts that do the heavy lifting for you. I don't chase or police. I ask direct questions once, then align my actions with the clarity I get. If the story keeps changing, I'll pause intimacy and logistics until we're honest again. I prefer clarity over confusion. My partner is free to have friends. My standard is transparency and proactive boundaries. No secrecy, no triangles. If repair is real, it looks like no contact, honesty on the first ask, and consistent follow-through. Everything else is negotiation with confusion. Hold that thought, because the real test shows up when you stop speaking. If they want repair, they'll show initiative. They'll remove themselves from the context that enabled the cheating, tolerate your repetition without shaming you, and keep the door open to your questions next week, not just today. If they want the thrill more than the relationship, they'll stall, reframe your needs as control, and ask you to trust without providing anything to trust. Notice what happens next when you insist on structure. The "you're controlling" line softens once you clarify that transparency is time-limited, targeted, and voluntary. The goal isn't to be their parent. It's to design a lane where trust can grow back. If they won't drive in that lane, the answer to the title question becomes simple. The relationship doesn't survive, not because you were harsh, but because survival has requirements. And to you, the betrayed partner, don't forget your own repair. Your nervous system took a hit. You'll get intrusive images, waves of anger, numb stretches, then bursts of sadness. That's not weakness. It's biology. Get sunlight. Lift something heavy. Talk to 2 friends who won't pour gasoline on the fire, and consider a therapist who understands betrayal trauma. Recovery isn't linear. You're allowed to step back from couple problems until your individual footing returns. Here's the nuanced verdict. Can a relationship survive cheating? Yes, when the cheater chooses radical accountability, the betrayed chooses clear boundaries, and both agree to build a new agreement with no contact, time-limited transparency, and empathy that lasts longer than the apology. No, when there's trickle truth, ongoing contact, blame shifting, or contempt for the pain they caused. Yes, when the meaning is huge mistake, fully owned, never repeated. No, when the meaning is I want options and I want you to be fine with it. The meaning is the map. If you're unsure which path you're on, test the story like this. They say, I've told you everything, can we stop talking about it? Could mean, I'm tired of discomfort and I want a shortcut. Verify by, ask the same question a week later and compare answers. Look for consistency without defensiveness. Respond with, we can move forward when the truth stays stable over time. I'm not rushing my nervous system. Identity reframe, then we're done. You're not a parole officer. You're an architect. You don't snoop to feel safe. You set terms that make safety possible. Boundaries are not punishment. They're conditions for building. Calm verification beats accusation. And if your standards clear the room, let them. Better an empty table than sharing a meal with secrecy. Pause. So, yes, a relationship can survive cheating, but only if the old rules don't. Choose structure over speeches, actions over apologies, and self-respect over scarcity. If you're staying, rebuild right. If you're leaving, leave clean. Either way, walk like a man who takes himself seriously. Subscribe for more calm, practical language that protects your peace and upgrades your relationships.